Welcome to the deep dive. You sent over a stack of sources this week that honestly feel like they were pulled from some lost adventure novel.
Right. But it's all 100% real geography.
It's just a jaw-dropping collection of facts about our planet that seem to defy all logic.
It really is. So our mission today is a deep dive, a shortcut for you, into the most anomalous, mind-bending geographical secrets out there.
And to do that, we have to start with a basic idea, right?
We do, and that premise is that the geography we all learned in school isn't static. It's an ongoing, dynamic science.
Absolutely. The sources make that so clear. New continents are being recognized, and these ancient mysteries like bizarre heat sources are only just now being explained.
And only because we finally have the technology like advanced sonar or deep drilling to actually confirm them.
Exactly.
So the goal isn't just to list off trivia, it's to connect these really shocking natural phenomena with how humans adapt to extremes and how these massive scale shifts are constantly remaking the map under our feet.
Okay, let's jump right into the deep end then. We have to start with a fact that sounds completely fictional, what the sources are calling the boiling river of death.
A phenomenal entry point. The name alone just grabs you, doesn't it?
It's a real place, the Chennai Tempishka, deep in the Peruvian Amazon. The documentation details water temperatures from like a scalding 120 up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Which is near boiling.
Yeah, near boiling. And the lethality is horrifying. Any small animal that falls in is, and I'm quoting here, instantly cooked alive.
And this is where the mystery really starts to unfold. This lethal river flows for almost 4 miles and it's 15 feet deep. That's a significant volume of hot water.
But the nearest active volcano, the usual suspect for this kind of heat,
Yeah.
is over 400 miles away.
Right, so where is all that heat coming from?
So what's driving it, if not a volcano?
It's sourced from deep underground geothermal springs. The river is basically a massive natural hot spring that's been superheated by the Earth's core and then pressurized up to the surface along these deep fault lines. It's an incredibly rare phenomenon that just proves how much volatile energy is moving right below the surface, far from where we'd expect to find it.
That idea of massive invisible energy is the perfect bridge to our next fact. We're moving from hidden heat to, well, constant atmospheric power.
Let's do it.
Let's pivot to the world's undisputed lightning capital, Lake Maracaibo in Venezuela.
This is famous for the Catatumbo lightning, and we're not talking about a few storms here and there. You get up to 260 storm days a year.
Per year.
Uh,
And the volume is just staggering. The sources say up to 28 lightning flashes per minute.
Per minute. It's a perfect example of atmospheric conditions meeting topography. You have this lowland marsh, and the warm, moist trade winds come in off the Caribbean.
And they just slam into the Andes Mountains.
They collide directly with these towering 15,000-foot peaks, and the resulting atmospheric compression creates these constant violent electrical storms.
What's really fascinating is the historical context.
That sailors used it for navigation, right? The output is so reliable that for centuries they've used this perpetual light show as a kind of natural beacon. The Earth's own geography provided one of the first lighthouses.
That connection between natural power and human history is incredible. Now, speaking of things you can navigate by, how about one you can't even see?
Okay.
The sources reveal a massive, secret underwater current beneath the Black Sea. It's basically a submerged river, complete with its own banks and rapids.
This really raises the question of how we even define a river, because this is a powerful, dense current flowing under the less dense Black Sea water.
And the scale of it is just hard to comprehend.
It is. If this current were on land, flowing on the surface, its sheer volume would make it the 6th largest river in the entire world.
6th largest.
Yeah.
An invisible river. So explain the physics. Why does it flow under the sea?
It all comes down to density. The Mediterranean Sea, where the water comes from, is way saltier than the Black Sea.
So it's heavier.
It's much denser, yeah. The Black Sea gets a lot more freshwater runoff from rivers. So when that dense, salty Mediterranean water flows through the narrow Bosporus Strait, it physically sinks beneath the lighter Black Sea water.
And that creates the current.
It creates a powerful channeled current. A true river system with banks and canyons all on the bottom of the sea. They needed advanced sonar and deep-sea ROVs just to map it.
Amazing. Okay, rounding out our deadly and hidden waters, let's talk about the sea that isn't a sea.
The Dead Sea.
The Dead Sea. It's not a sea, it's a hypersaline lake between Jordan and Israel.
And its salt concentration is extreme. It's nearly 10 times saltier than the ocean.
And the consequences of that are something you can see, something people travel for.
The consequence is pure physics. The water is so dense you can float without any effort at all. You can't really swim. Diving is almost impossible.
And it has another claim to fame.
It does. Its surface and shores sit at the lowest elevation point on Earth's land surface. It's a triple anomaly. A sea that's a lake, so salty it defies physics, and it sits at the bottom of the visible world.
Okay, let's unpack this and move from water to the truly mind-bending scale of land. You probably learned there are 7 continents in school, but the sources have definitive evidence of Earth's lost continent.
Zealandia.
Zealandia.
Yes, a true geological enigma. It's a massive continent, described as being twice the size of India, just hiding in plain sight under the Pacific.
And the key detail here is that we only see the very tips of it.
Precisely. A staggering 94% of it is submerged. The only parts above the waves are New Zealand and New Caledonia.
So those are basically just the mountain peaks of this huge hidden landmass.
Exactly. Geologically, it's distinct from Australia. It broke away about 85 million years ago and just gradually subsided beneath the waves.
I was just stunned that scientists only officially recognized it as a continent in 2017. What does that actually imply? Does recognizing a new continent change anything besides textbooks?
Oh, it changes quite a bit. It shows that tectonic geography is still an active field of discovery. But more than that, confirming a new continental mass has huge geopolitical and economic implications.
Like what?
Things like seabed mining rights, maritime boundaries. Because the legal definition of a continental shelf is based on the geological reality. So it's a reminder that our world's physical boundaries are still subject to change.
That really puts the scale into perspective. Let's stick with scale, but go a bit interstellar. Because we forget how vast our familiar land masses are.
The classic Russia comparison.
Fact 6. Russia is bigger than a dwarf planet.
It is. Russia covers 17 million square kilometers. Pluto's entire surface area is only 16.6 million square kilometers.
So a country on our planet is bigger than another world in our solar system.
And to visualize its own internal scale, just remember, Russia spans 11 time zones. When people in Moscow are having breakfast, people on the East Coast are already finishing dinner.
And the sources have another great comparison, one that feels even more relatable. The Australian scale paradox.
Right. Australia's diameter, if you measure it east to west, is about 4,000 kilometers.
Which makes it wider than the moon.
Wider than the moon's diameter, which is only 3,474 kilometers.
That's a fantastic way to visualize it.
It really is. We tend to think of the moon and Pluto as these massive celestial objects, but when you compare them to continents we live on, it highlights how truly vast Earth's geography is.
Now for my favorite mindbender, which is this perfect intersection of geology and bizarre scale, the impossible island in the Philippines.
The geographical Russian nesting doll.
Yes.
It's a phenomenal structure, a great example of recursive geography. We're talking about Vulcan Point.
Okay, lay out the layers for us.
All right. This tiny point sits inside Crater Lake, which is itself on Taal Volcano Island.
Which then sits in the larger Taal Lake.
Which is itself located on Luzon Island, one of the biggest islands in the Philippines.
So an island in a lake, on an island in a lake, on a bigger island. It seems almost too fragile to even exist.
That complexity is exactly the point. It didn't form randomly. It was created over thousands of years by multiple successive volcanic eruptions.
One after the other.
Yes. The big crater formed, filled with water to become Taal Lake. Then a later eruption built a new cone in the middle, Taal Volcano Island. Then that erupted, leaving its own small crater lake. And Vulcan Point is just the tiny remnant of the cone inside that inner lake.
It's a living record of violent geological history.
Perfectly put.
Let's end this segment with a classic boundary fact that also showcases some amazing historical accuracy.
The Four Corners Monument.
Right, the only place in the U.S. where you can stand in 4 states at once.
Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah.
And what's really fascinating here is the history. It was surveyed way back in 1868.
With 19th century equipment, right.
Okay.
Transit telescopes and chains. Exactly. Yet modern GPS shows its position is incredibly accurate. It's just a huge testament to those early surveyors.
It speaks volumes about the precision of dedicated pre-digital science, just laying down invisible lines on this massive, uneven landscape with such fidelity.
It's really impressive.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We've looked at the planet's extremes, boiling rivers, invisible continents. So how do humans adapt to these limits?
Let's get into it.
Let's start with extreme adaptation. The town under one roof, Whittier, Alaska.
Whittier is a masterclass in adaptation. It's basically a vertical city built for survival. Almost all 200 residents live in a single 14-story building.
The Big Itch Towers.
That's the one. It was originally a World War II military barracks.
And the sources detail just how self-contained this building is. It's a whole ecosystem.
It is. Inside that one building, you find the post office, the grocery store, the school, the church, the medical clinic, everything a resident needs.
Which means, during the absolute worst of a brutal Alaskan winter, some people could go for weeks without ever stepping outside and still function totally normally.
That's the necessity that drove the design. The geographical reality, extreme cold, heavy snow, limited access, it all dictated that the community had to consolidate vertically. It's a fascinating enforced isolation that keeps the community alive.
From hidden cities to hidden history, let's challenge a common assumption. Most people think Egypt is the pyramid champion.
But the sources tell us Sudan actually holds that title.
They do.
This is a fact that just gets overlooked by most history books. Sudan, specifically the area that was once the Kingdom of Kush, has over 200 ancient pyramids.
Compared to Egypt's 118.
Right. And the Kushite pyramids are different. They're generally smaller, but way more numerous, and they blend Egyptian styles with native Nubian architecture.
So they tell a different story.
A completely different story. They represent a vast, often overlooked treasure trove of history about powerful empires that thrived south of Egypt.
Let's pull back and look at global population distribution now. The northern population squeeze.
This is a stark statistical reality, and it's all dictated by geography. The sources indicate that nearly 90% of Earth's population,
About 6.5 billion people.
live in the northern hemisphere.
Why such a massive imbalance?
It's purely down to physical geography. If you look at a globe, there are just significantly larger land masses in the North Eurasia, North America. And those regions historically have more temperate, arable climates that can support huge populations.
Much more so than the vast oceans and extreme colds of the south.
Exactly.
Speaking of land masses defying logical governance, we have to talk about China's single time zone.
It's a profound geographical paradox. China operates on one single time, Beijing time, despite spanning what should naturally be 5 geographical time zones.
And the real-world consequences of that for people living in the far west of the country must be bizarre.
The consequence is a surreal daily life. It's driven by political unity, not solar reality. If you're in far western China, the sun might rise hours after the official time in Beijing.
So when official business starts at 9 a.m., it might still be dark outside.
It could be, yeah. It forces people to adjust their entire lives and business schedules to a centralized political clock.
Finally, let's contrast two opposite extremes, which I think sets up our final thought beautifully.
The flattest country and the growing mountain.
On one hand, you have the Maldives, the flattest country on Earth. It's made up of over 1,000 coral islands, and its highest natural point is just 2.4 meters less than 8 feet above sea level.
And the physical opposite of that vulnerability.
Mount Everest, which is still relentlessly growing.
Precisely. Everest grows about 4 millimeters taller every single year. It's due to the colossal continuous pressure of the Indian tectonic plate pushing into the Eurasian plate.
So it's actively getting taller.
Constantly. The sources note it's grown over 20 centimeters since the first ascent in 1953. It shows that massive geological shifts are always happening, even if we measure them in millimeters.
So we've covered everything from the unseen continent of Zealandia to the deadly boiling river in the Amazon. We've talked about a community where everyone lives under a single roof in Alaska. We really did a deep dive into places that challenge basic geography.
And what's crucial to take away from all this is that the planet is constantly reshaping itself and defying our expectations. And, sometimes the most important features are the ones we know the least about, like the taiga forest.
Right, the taiga is the world's largest forest. It spans 17 million square kilometers across Russia, Canada, Scandinavia.
It's absolutely massive, and it's vital. It produces a whopping 30% of Earth's oxygen. It stores immense carbon. It's critical for the planet's climate health, yet it's still relatively unknown compared to the Amazon.
Which underscores how the largest, most important geographical features can just operate silently in the background.
And that theme of scale and importance brings us back perfectly to the paradox of scale and vulnerability we talked about with the Maldives.
Right. The geography of the Maldives is its existential threat.
It is. We just mentioned Mount Everest gaining 4 millimeters a year from these immense geological forces. But the Maldives, with its highest point at just 2.4 meters, is the country most vulnerable to disappearing completely within the next 50 to 100 years.
Because of rising sea levels.
Due to rising sea levels. So you have the largest land masses pushing higher while the flattest nations are slowly being swallowed by the sea.
It's a stark contrast.
It is. We've spent this deep dive on these massive, shocking, ancient geographical facts. So now consider this final provocative thought for you to take away.
What impact will this geography, the eventual disappearance of a low-lying nation, have on future generations' understanding of the world? And what other ancient geographical facts, or maybe even entire nations, might be about to disappear forever?